So this is real time and I have a story to tell you. So I'm at the laundromat again. Once a week for the unforeseeable future. But I wanted to tell you how our weekend went. So the past couple of weeks, we're in February, in the past couple of weeks, we've had lots and lots of snow, and then the snow turned to freezing cold weather and lots of ice. The creek froze over. It was pretty bad. So yesterday was Sunday, yeah. Yesterday we went to church and we had Bible study afterwards. We were headed home about 4 o'clock. It had started raining the night before and it was about 40 degrees and it had gone up from, 35. So it really didn't rise. The temperature didn't rise that fast. But it is the worst flooding we have ever seen. The creek looked like it was a raging river. I'll show you videos. And the ice piled up again like it did the last, 2 years ago. Much worse than 2 years ago, though. So our puppies were at home. Our little dogs, they're not puppies anymore. But we were really worried that they wouldn't be able to hold it until we got home. But we had to spend the night at Josh's. And then this morning we got up. We had prayed the night before the Lord would help us be able to get back to our puppies. And we got up and it was a beautiful sunrise. Beautiful sunrise. And the creek had gone down. There was still ice on the driveway, so we couldn't get through, but Josh was able to go down with his tractor and push the ice away. So that was such a blessing. So we were able to drive across the driveway, even though there was still a little bit of water on the driveway, but we were able to get through. It wasn't deep at all. And the puppies were so happy to see us. We're just so grateful to be able to have gotten home. And the nice thing is, we had thought there would be lots of messes because they had been home from 9 o'clock Sunday morning until we got up there about 8 o'clock this morning, and there were no messes. No messes. We immediately let them out, and they really had to go, but they are so good at holding it. There was a rug by the door that they peed on, but other than that, there was nothing. They did really, really well. The outside dogs were just frantic to get food because, they're big dogs and they just like to eat. But they weren't starving or anything like that. They did really well too. And then the chickens did well. They left me lots of eggs. So such a blessing in times of stress and trials. God is good and he gets us through, and everything was fine. Now I'm taking you back to 2 years ago. I started seeds while we lived in town, hoping to have a garden when we moved out to the property. Tim and I built boxes for the plants, and I asked Josh to rototill for the other seeds I wanted to plant. I got Josh's tractor and filled the boxes with topsoil, and then got bagged garden soil and put that on top. I then planted peppers and tomatoes in the boxes, and squash, beans, and zucchinis in the garden. I hadn't used Josh's tractor much, so was pretty jerky at the controls. I sure enjoyed using it though, so much easier than using a shovel and a wheelbarrow. I find so much joy in gardening, planting seeds and watching as God helps them grow. Raking was hard on my back, but worth a little pain to see my garden prepared. The garden looked beautiful after planting. Tim put linoleum down in the bathroom and sheetrocked before the plumber installed the toilet, vanity, and shower finishes. The plumber also installed the tankless water heater. We ordered wood for the winter to come, and our grandkids came and stacked it for us.
I checked on getting the power from the road to our house site. They would need to go underground for our service. The cost for the power company to supply and install a transformer and the wire to our build site was over $35,000. That was with me digging the ditch. The system that we ordered was a 9,540 watt solar panel array, a Midnight Solar charge controller, a Midnight Solar inverter, and two 200 amp hour Eclipse 48 volt batteries. We had to purchase wire and conduit and build the panel array on top of the equipment. When I purchased my system from Backwoods Solar, it was July of 2023. The cost for everything then was just over $27,000 with tax. It was kind of a no-brainer to go with the solar.
After installing the solar, Tim realized the original tankless water heater took too much power for the system, so he installed a smaller heater. We now know that we will go with propane in the big house. Do you hear that sound? We love to hear that sound. It means there's lots of solar coming in. Our batteries are being charged completely full.
We had to purchase wire and conduit to go from the panels to the tiny house, and we had to build a panel array on top of all the equipment. The cost for the array structure was about $2,000. The wire and conduit, 130 lineal feet of each, was an additional $1,500. It was pretty straightforward to set up the panels on the stand, and the instructions given by Backwoods Solar were very detailed and made the process doable for us to do the full install of the panels, the wire, the conduit, the equipment, and the batteries. It really looked intimidating, but we were able, with a few calls to Backwoods tech support for answers to questions that came up, we were able to get it done. The following sequence of events is how this goes together. First of all, we set the 18 530 watt bifacial panels. These are the backbone of the system. They are monocrystalline panels also. That just means that they are a more seamless panel and are totally black color for better absorption. The bifacial aspect means that they absorb from either side, which works great in the winter snow, as the snow reflection helps the system to gather more solar power. The panels are all wired together in a series of positive to positive and negative to negative. The panels have wiring on them, so you don't have to worry about that. You just plug everything together. The wires then go to a combiner box with fused breakers. This is like a breaker box to stop DC power at the panels if repairs or anything else on the system needs work done. The wires, they go through the conduit to the charge controller where the energy is directed to the batteries. The inverter is next and helps to go from the DC battery power to AC, house power. Wires go from the batteries to the inverter, and then wires go to the 200 amp house panel. It has worked flawlessly for us. We had a bad snowstorm, and it got down to negative 17 degrees. The water froze, our batteries in our vehicles wouldn't start them, and we had no power because I had put a small heater in the pump house to keep the water from freezing. So that drew the power down too far. I called Backwoods Solar Tech support, and they said that the batteries would need to be jump started with a DC charger, or I could try to jump them using 6 9-volt batteries hooked up together. Since the solar batteries are 48 volts, I needed more volts than that to jump them. Backwoods did tell me that this was a hack that someone had used and they weren't sure of the outcome. I tried it and it worked. That was a happy day. I would not recommend doing this except in an emergency situation, as the 9-volt batteries got pretty hot during the jump start. Kind of scary, but I had no options at the time. The solar is working great. Our panels even charge on a cloudy day. We have had to use our generator for backup recharging of the batteries when we have heavy clouds or fog for days on end. I still think it's the best way to go. Being off-grid is freeing you from power outages and power bills, and possibly power grid failure, which is an ongoing possibility. It also helps to have the backup support from Backwoods Solar. They are great to work with, so helpful and patient. Dana will put the contact info in the description.
Please leave a comment if you have any questions on solar. Tim is not an expert, but I do know that it works great. We started having problems with the trailer blowing the outside GFI plug, so we bought an apartment-sized refrigerator to use in the cabin. It seemed like such a luxury after using the tiny trailer fridge. Try saying that 3 times fast. I'm still so very grateful for my refrigerator. 1 Thessalonians 5:18 says, "In everything give thanks, for this is the will of God in Christ Jesus for you." I convinced Tim to move his office into the mechanical room and build me a kitchen for my tiny cabin. He said it would be my Christmas present, and I gladly agreed. We used our old toaster oven, and I bought a 2-burner hot plate. Boy, was that an upgrade to our trailer. It only had a propane cooktop and a microwave. A guy at the lumber yard heard we were looking for a used kitchen sink. He had one, and he gave it to us. What a blessing. Tim installed the sink, and I plumbed it all in. Such joy having hot water and a normal-sized sink to wash dishes in. For a Christmas present for myself, I bought and built a kitchen cart. Wow, what a difference that made. Tim also installed a hood vent and a cabinet to cover the vent pipe. We had an early winter with lots of snow and cold temperatures, some getting into the negative. We put up a fence so that our small dogs could go out without us having to go out there too. We were having trouble with the struts on the hatch to our Suburban because of the cold weather, so I decided to replace them myself. Our son Isaac is a mechanic, so I called him. He assured me it was easy, but to make sure, I braced the door up firmly. I got my tools, and then I propped the door up firmly with a board from the bumper to the end of the door. That wasn't such a good idea, since the strut flew off and hit the board, and my hand got smashed in the door. Boy, did that hurt. I was so grateful I did not break it. Our church family came together and made us meals while I healed. God is so good. I love the place God has put us in and the church family He has blessed us with. We hired Luke and his boys to come build the barn roof. They started February 19th. Luke and his boys built the trusses and then set them and sheathed the roof all in 5 days. The same day Luke started, the lumber package for the stem walls and floor arrived.
When ordering our lumber package, I went with a local independent company that was very professional and prompt. They did their best to get the deliveries out as soon as possible after being ordered. My first order of lumber for the main house was a full unit of 104 5/8 2x6 studs and a full unit of 92.5-inch studs, 2x6. Both of these units were purchased at a very good discount, as the lumberyard had them stacked away from the rest of the lumber for 1.5 years. I always saw them when I drove by that stack, and finally asked why they were there. I was told that when they took off the lumber wrap on these 2 units, they found mold growth on the 2x6s and couldn't sell them because of that problem. I asked how I could get them, and we came to an agreed price, non-returnable, cash only, and delivered. I found during the framing when the wrap was taken off that we only had 15 to 20 studs that were moldy, and the rest were just fine. It was pretty much the outer layer, and that was all. Danny used all the other ones, the bad ones, on the chicken house built. It was a great score. The next load came out with 2x6 treated sill material, 9.5-inch rim board, 32-foot long eye joists, 9.5 inches, 2x4 studs for building the stem walls on the concrete walls and ribbon footings, 4x8 by 3/4 tongue and groove floor sheathing, 4x8 by 7/16 no groove soffit board for siding, and some random length 2x4s and 2x6s for top and bottom plate material. I had the material stacked on the east side of the house as it had the best height access to get the material to where I needed it. I had the floor joists stacked on the south side as I could shove them into the place easier from that side. When standing on the south side of the house, on the dirt, my chin was even with the top of the framed stem wall. I wanted a nice crawl space, about 4'6" tall. That was very nice. I was able to do all the framing by myself, which you will see in the next video. I wasn't sure of getting the 20-foot long rim boards or the 32-foot long eye joists up by myself. Watch next week to see how I did.
Josh was here helping too. Luke has to order the roofing before he puts it on. It sure is going to be a big train room. It's been about a month since I hurt my hand, but I can use it and it feels much better, even though it still looks pretty bad. While Luke was waiting for the roofing, he framed the pony walls and the gables and did the siding and the windows. Luke built the cupola inside the bottom of the barn and had me look at it to make sure it was what I wanted. I did have him shorten it a little. It sure looks good. The roofing arrived and the boys started putting on the drip edge. Luke had them cover the whole fascia with the metal so that we wouldn't have to paint. What a good idea. The roofing went on quickly, but they had to figure out how to put the metal on the prow point. It turned out looking really good. When they were done roofing, they came back and sided the cupola. It sure looks great with that cedar siding on it. Luke took a picture of the prow point so we could see it from above. I love my brass rooster weather vane. As soon as Tim got the lumber, he started putting down the sill seal foam and treated 2x6s for the sill. Then he started building the stem walls. It went up pretty quickly. Tim built pony walls on the ribbon foundations to support the 32 feet long eye joists. He installed them all by himself. I forgot to say that he put in 20-foot rim boards all around the foundation before he put in the eye joists. He did it mostly all in one day. I was gone that day, so I wasn't able to video, but I did get some pictures. The guys are putting in the ridge cap here. Luke got great pictures of the foundation from the top of the barn while he was here. Tim was so excited to get started putting the plywood down on the floor. And it was wonderful to see so much work being done when I got home. The little girls, our granddaughters, claimed the space under the mudroom as their playhouse. They want Grandpa to put in a secret hatch in the floor. That's a fun idea, but I don't think that's gonna work. Thanks for watching, and please subscribe. It really does help our channel. Have a good day!